Okay, welcome to our Poison Prevention Week 2024 School Interactive Session under the theme, Promoting Poison Prevention Amongst Our Children. And for today, we'll be having a discussion, a very short discussion on poison education in school and mental wellness. This is an initiative with the Caribbean Poison Information Network at the University of Technology, Jamaica, in partnership with Mindfulness Jamaica Initiative. And to start off with our discussion, I'll be sharing a video to start the discussion with us. So at this time, I'm going to start doing screen sharing. Renee, could you stop sharing so that I can share? I'll be sharing my screen and we'll be looking at our video on how we can prevent poisoning in schools, and then we'll go on to the outline for our program. I must give a special welcome to Najika Barnes, a project leader for Mindfulness Initiative Jamaica, British Eye Commission and Shielding Alumni Initiative project. Thank you for being on the platform, Ms. Barnes. Amidst that you're not feeling well today, we are grateful that you're able to join us. And now let's go to watching our video.
Are so curious and adventurous, they love tasting and eating anything they can find, which explains why hundreds of children under 5 need medical treatment for poisoning every year. You might be surprised, though, at the most common poison risk. It's paracetamol. Yeah, the common headache and pain relief tablets. Now, in fact, all medications are very dangerous for children, so always keep tablets in their original packaging and store them somewhere high and away. Rule 1, always keep medications out of reach. Particularly risky are grandma or granddad's prescription medications. They look just like lollies to small children, so make sure they're kept out of harm's way. Another serious risk to children is button batteries. Now, if swallowed, these batteries can get stuck in a child's throat and burn badly. Now, these batteries are in small remote controls, singing greeting cards, and you know those novelty flashing or singing hats, that sort of thing. So, rule 2, be battery aware and keep these items out of reach if you're not there to supervise play. Inside the home, cleaning products are a big poison risk. Never leave bottles or containers out, including dishwashing machine tablets. And always keep poisons in their original labelled containers to avoid mix-ups. If you do need to store them under a kitchen or laundry sink, install child-resistant locks. But keeping them high and out of reach is best. Rule 3, lock poisons up and away. Outside, be aware of fertilisers, pesticides, pool chemicals, and other poison risks. They should all be locked away in a shed or in a secure garage cabinet, because poisons outside should be locked out of sight. Now, if the unthinkable should happen and your child has swallowed something, call the Poisons Information Line on 13 11 26. They're available 24/7 and they can provide expert help with child, adult or pet poisonings. Don't induce vomiting unless you're told to do so. If they've swallowed something caustic like bleach, vomiting will burn on the way back up too. Remember, prevention is the best cure we have. Always look out for poisoning hazards and keep your kids safe.
And so we have started off our program with looking on some common poisons that affect children, not only in Jamaica, but this video was courtesy of the Western Australia Child Accident Prevention Foundation. And so we will go into our presentation for this afternoon. So we'll be looking on the different ways in which we can prevent poisonous exposure, not only for the small children, but also there are some exposures that are caused from substance abuses within our high school setting. And so for our presentation this afternoon, these are the areas that we'll be looking at: substance abuse and learning. What are the substances that are most consumed by our students within our schools? Mental well-being. What are some of the activities that on programs that we can have for students in schools? Now, which of the substances below affect students in your school? Anyone on the platform can share with us any substance that you think affects students within the school system, and you can type it in the chat. We have, we have alcohol, we have marijuana, we have codeine, we have tobacco, we have recreational drugs, in terms of molly and ecstasy, and chemicals that are used in school, especially for the elementary and the toddler ages. Which of these substances, or which one of the substances do you think affects students most in the different school, whether it's a basic school, a primary school, high school, or in the tertiary system? And as we see, the students are in the middle of all of this. They are surrounded by all of these substances. And let us see what our statistics here in Jamaica have to say about how our students or our young people are affected by substances. So what does our statistics show since publication in 2015? It shows that 60% of our young people, they have reported lifetime prevalence of alcohol use. So we see that that is top of the list. And 60% of these same children, they have tried one or more drugs, including marijuana. And we have 1.3% that have used cocaine. Now, in the tray, we see the rise in the use of recreational drugs, and this is mostly in the tertiary institution setting. We do have that within the high school setting, but we have more of that being practiced within our tertiary institution. And then we'll go further to discuss a bit more on how do we think this impact the students' learning within the classroom. And so for the recreational drugs, some of them that we saw coming out at the top of the list for Jamaica, we have the electronic cigarette, and we have heard a lot of, especially the guidance counselors within schools in some of our session, talking about vaping that is being practiced in some of the high schools in Jamaica. For some of the tertiary institutions, we have the use and abuse of recreational drugs such as alcohol and molly. And also we can see the use of alcohol abuse with, in the guitar section, you would have marijuana or tobacco that is seen within the high school setting. Now let us look on a video to hear more about what happens with the use of recreational drugs in high schools and what are the teens actually practicing there. It's a very short video, just 2 minutes, and we'll just listen a little bit more on what it is that is out there on social media. Let me share with you now. And tell me if you can hear it.
It may seem common for young people to experiment with different substances, like vaping, weed, tobacco, Molly, and alcohol. Some may even consider hard drugs such as cocaine, meth, or opioids like heroin. Regardless of the substance, if it's not prescribed by a doctor and taken as prescribed, experimenting with substances can have negative effects. Meet Jeremiah. Jeremiah hangs out with his friends on the weekends. They drink alcohol and occasionally smoke marijuana to relax and get away from the stresses of life and school. One time at a party, Jeremiah smoked something a girl handed to him, not knowing what it was. Later, he found out that it was K2, a synthetic type of weed. His friends told him that he was hilarious and started acting crazy, and that they couldn't wait to party with him again. Jeremiah was concerned because he has no memory of what happened. He wants to be with his friends and have a good time, but he hated not remembering and doesn't want to take another substance like that again. He also feels new pressure to be the life of the party and act a certain way. What happened to Jeremiah is all too common. You start out taking one substance and end up taking something else. A danger in using any substance that isn't prescribed to you is not knowing exactly what it is you're taking and how it will impact you. Unfortunately, young people are being exposed to substances that can have dangerous physical and mental health consequences. As a good rule of thumb, if a drug isn't prescribed to you, you shouldn't take it. Pretty quickly, what feels like casual or experimental substance use can turn into a substance use problem, which has long-lasting and negative consequences. Before you decide to use a substance, know the risks and potential consequences, or reach out to a counselor to talk about it.
Yes, so after watching that video, what are some of the key points that were highlighted in regards to recreational drugs? Anyone, you can type in the chat and I will read it. Okay, I'm seeing, let me see. The abuse of marijuana has been an issue for us here in Jamaica. Is there any of the recreational drugs that you would have seen in the video that you think would be of major concerns to us, especially in our school? I don't think cocaine is not one of the major issues per se, but yes, alcohol is one of the major issues that we would have within the school. Vaping also would be one of them. And how does this impact learning? So one of the things that we would have known from studies that are carried out with students who abuse substances in school is that there is the issue of students who abuse substances having poor grades. That means that they do not achieve a lot academically. So their scores are usually low. Their focus and concentration in school, it's usually less. In regards to their IQ, it is usually, their IQ is usually low also. And there is the issue of low self-esteem, memory challenges, and attention deficit. Also poor social skills. And we can see we have noticed, especially since the pandemic, they talk about violence in school a lot and the unrest with students in school. And we might think that substance abuse and the relation of how the impact it has on a student's behavior or a student's mind, as students, how they socialize and interact with each other, we might not be paying a lot of attention to it. And it is important for us to focus on this, because this is also an issue of poison prevention to those students' body when it comes on to learning, when it comes on to focusing, when it comes on to their self-confidence and elevating themselves and matriculating properly through the school systems. Now, what are some of the activities that students can be engaging within the school environment at different level to allow them to educate themselves more about issues that are concerning poison prevention, poison exposure, and so on. And so I'm going to share with you some of the activities that we would have engaged school in over the years through what is called our Poison Prevention Week school competition. And usually our school competition, it has the facet of a dub poet, a skit. We have students doing, and they would get a theme under which they will carry out research. They would do songs and they would do poems. Now, for every school, there is what is called a science curriculum. And so on the students' activities and lesson from the Poison Center, what we would encourage schools to focus on more are those chemicals that are the top agents for poisoning in Jamaica. And these are, we have bleach, we have pesticides, and we have medication. And allow students to discuss more within the science classes on these chemicals and how it affects them at their home, how it should be stored properly, what are some of the practices, the do and don'ts that should happen at home. And by having this activity in school, we can filter the information into the home environment to the parents, to the guardians, to the great grandmothers, to the aunts and the uncles and other relatives through the students that you would have taught in your school. Another activity that we would have is through the creative arts. So students are allowed to make posters. So you have your art classes, you can have students creating different concepts of how should a chemical be labeled, especially for those that are retailed. And some of the common chemicals that are purchased in Jamaica on the retail market, we have the all-purpose cleaner, we have the retail bleach, we have the deodorizer, we have the all-purpose soap, even things as thinners and kerosene oil are also sold on the retail market. And so we can use the art room in the school to show students what the packaging should look like, what the symbols, what are some of the symbols that they should look for on these containers. What does a skull and a bone means when you see that on a chemical container, what it is that you should be careful of and how it is that you should be handling it or not handling it as a child of a specific age. And so we'll look on research activities. And this is one of the main things that we'd like to engage, especially the high school students in. When we share the thematic areas for the Poison Prevention Week school competition, what does research entail? Research entail that the student meticulously go through our data here in Jamaica, whether it's through the newspaper, or they go through the library, or they visit the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, and all of these resources can now be accessed online. And we would like them to look on how many children are exposed to poisoning in Jamaica each year, and what percentage of these children are in a particular age group. So we know for the confirmed cases for poisoning that the Ministry of Health and Wellness report each year that 80% of the confirmed cases are for children 0 to 5 years, and that's a given for majority of the years. And this has been happening for over a decade now. And of that 80% 0 to 5 years, we know that within the range of 60+ % would be for children 0 to 2, 0 to 3 years. How does this impact a child's development and learning, and which one of these chemical agents are more lethal than the other, and what are the treatments that are available in Jamaica, and how do you get assistance? So part of the activities that we would ask you to engage your students in are: one, when someone is exposed to poisoning at home, who should they call? First, we would say that if a child does not understand or doesn't know what is in a particular container, the first rule is to call an adult. However, if an adult or a child or anyone at home is exposed to chemical in many different ways, whether it's through ingestion, whether it's through a splash in the eye, whether it's through dermal absorption or inhalation, we say to them, go to the closest health center or hospital or call the Caribbean Poison Information Network in the University of Technology, Jamaica at 888-764-7667, or you can call us through our straight line at 876-927-168029 at the extension 2300. So just in summary, in regards to activities that you can integrate within your school curriculum for poison prevention messages, and also to enhance the learning of children in poison prevention. We talk about the science curriculum, looking on the different agents, looking on how they're labeled, knowing which one is more lethal than the other. We talk about the art, using the creative art to look at symbols, to look on signs, to look on how items, hazardous chemicals, should be packaged, and what are the information that you should look for on these chemicals. Using research activities for students to be more involved in looking on how poisoning affects children within the country, and what are the different resources and the entities that are available to help them. And at this time, I am going to invite Ms. Barnes to speak a little bit about the mental health initiative in Jamaica. And this is a project that was started since February through the Shevening alumni that she has been leading up to now. And so she'll be sharing the project initiative with us, and also she will be talking about what are the reach that we can have in schools island-wide, and how this can be integrated as a part of a partnership program between ourselves and the school. And Ms. Barnes, I'll leave the slide up. However, you can take the platform now.
Thank you so much, Sharika, for extending this invitation. And I'm happy to share. As you mentioned before, I am not feeling 100% well, but I'll do my best nonetheless. So, the Mindfulness Jamaica Initiative started, was conceptualized, recognizing the need of mental health challenges that our young people in Jamaica, encounter, particularly identifying and understanding the lack of resources that our young people need to cope and to get through the different challenges unique to their community. So, the British High Commission and the Shevening Alumni Network undertook a mental health adolescent conference in January of this year, which was very successful. It was actually the first of its kind in Jamaica. And that initiative has propelled and somewhat catalyzed a movement towards refocusing on the mental health challenges of our young people. So, somebody said she's not hearing. Are you hearing me now?
I'm hearing you. I'm not sure why Miss Richards is not hearing. Maybe just speak a little bit louder because I'm wearing a headset, so it's very easy for me to hear you. Um,
Okay.
yes, and I think because you're not well, your voice is lower than usual. All right, Mrs. Richards, she will reiterate what it is that she had just said. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So essentially, I was just saying that the Mindfulness Jamaica Initiative has catalyzed a movement in refocusing on the challenges that our young people face here in Jamaica. And many organizations, mental health organizations, including the Jamaica Psychiatric Society and Jamaica Psychological Association, has, tried to extend, has sought to extend their support in helping us to reach a number of young people in Jamaica. Now, the Shielding Alumni, supported by the British High Commission, what we have done is plan various visits in schools throughout Jamaica. So far, we have visited two schools and we have supported another school with resources, mental health resources. The visits include, speaking with the young people, trying to understand some of the challenges that they encounter and trying to have engaging a discussion. How can they actually navigate some of the challenges in schools that impact their mental health? It was even up to, I think, 2 days ago, I was advised that a young man committed suicide in a high school in Jamaica because of some challenges that he was facing, because of the pressure, in school and from his parents. And he was only in grade 7. We also saw a young lady committed suicide in another school in Montego Bay and an attempted suicide in a prominent school in St. Thomas. And the young people, when we speak with them, they strongly vocalize the challenges and, they will even express that, their parents, their teachers don't understand what they are going through. So it is our responsibility, therefore, within our capacity as civil society, as teachers, as guidance counselors, and CARPIN, I think this is a really, really good initiative in identifying, poisons prevention initiatives in school, but also partnering with the Mindfulness Jamaica Initiative because we can only impact the students within a greater way by through partnerships. So when we're thinking about providing support for our students, we're thinking about providing a safe space for them to talk. They need to feel and to understand and to be reassured that what they're experiencing is valid. Now, the some parents recently said to me, but that young man was in grade 7. Him not paying no bills. Him not going through anything. So why did he take his life? And it was very cold. It was a very cold and unremorseful statement. We need to understand that children, students, they encounter challenges, and it is for us to educate ourselves and to understand and to take the time out to understand and to have the conversations about what it is that they are going through. Now, our era of how we would have addressed situations, there is an evolution. So we have to understand what are the challenges that they're encountering now, and what can we do to provide the resources to help them to deal with those situations. This includes listening. If it is that the situation is greater than what we can handle, is it that we need to speak with the guidance counselor in the schools? Is it that we need to reach out to different resources, different organizations to provide the support that they need? But we need to listen and provide a space where their emotions, their stresses, their issues, their situations are they feel a sense of validation. So they need to feel validated because when we had our focus group discussion, when we were planning the conference in January, some of the students were saying that we don't feel like our feelings are validated. The adults shut us down and feel as if we don't go through anything because we're not paying bills. So we don't have problems. And that's a major myth that we need to address. Secondly, we need to get help for them. So, as parents, guidance counselors, teachers, you'll do the best that you can do within the resources that you have, and probably the way how your parents dealt with things, or your guidance, your supporters, your caregivers. You will try to project that on your children or your nieces or nephews. But we need to understand that there has been a shift in era, so in the era, so how our grandparents and our parents dealt with things, we cannot adopt and apply the same approach. We have to understand that this is a different time period that we're living in, and we have to understand their jargons, their feelings, what is happening, what is relevant, and get the help that they need. Because you're gonna do the best that you can, but sometimes the best that you can, you're not educated and you don't understand, you don't have the resources to provide the meaningful help to walk them through the different processes for them to cope and to get through. We have to provide guidance. So, getting help is one thing, but we have to provide guidance. As caregivers, as parents, as civil society groups, you would have gone through different experiences. And as such, you have to guide with love. Many of the students, they are verbally abused. One particular teacher expressed to me that there was a very bright, brilliant young lady in his class. However, she was she was very afraid, and he saw the changes in her because her mother was verbally and physically abusing her instead of guiding her. So it is our duty to guide our children. We have a responsibility, as adults, in whatever capacity we're placed, to guide our children and to help them to understand and to navigate some of the challenges that they face. If it is that we do not have the resources to guide them or to help them, we have to seek the help for them. You have many organizations in Jamaica through the Ministry of Health, through Jamaica Psychological Society, through the Guidance Health Clinic, through Jamaica Psychological Association, and Teen Hub, You Matter. There are resources to help our young people. Many corporate entities, having identified the importance of this initiative, have come on board to help with the sustainability. And as such, we just need to continue to propel and to contribute or support, because remember that the young people are the future. They are going to be the ones who are going to become the doctors, the nurses who are going to be caring for us. They're going to be the policemen who are going to be protecting us while we're sleeping. And if it is that we don't nurture them through the difficult periods of their lives now, what is going to happen to them? So imagine us as adults who sometimes becomes overwhelmed with stresses to the point where we don't know how to deal with them. Imagine our children who are not equipped and whose minds are still in the developmental stage. Imagine how overwhelming it is. That is why I was so hurt the other night when the person commented in such an unremorseful way. Why did that grade 7 student took his life? He has no bills to pay or nothing to worry about. But his father told him that he was going to beat the life out of him. And as such, he took his life because he was in fear of his life. So, as adults, when we communicate with our young people, we have to be mindful of our tone. Remember that we are guarding them, we are their guardian. So whatever we say, they're gonna take it literally. They're like sponges. So if it is that we communicate to them with disgust and with disdain, it is going to have a negative and a crippling impact on them. So we have to nurture them. We have to listen to them. We have to seek to understand their language, even if it is not something that we know the slangs and the jargons. We have to be patient enough to listen and to provide a safe space. If we do not listen, they are going to go to the wrong people and take the wrong advice. And that advice comes back down again to the whole issue of poison prevention in schools, because they're gonna see their their peers smoking, using all kind of abusive substances. And if it is that they don't understand what is happening, they are going to engage in these negative and destructive activities that's going to affect not just their physiology, their biology or physiology, but also their mental health and wellness, because there's a direct correlation between using and abusing poisonous substances and how that will affect you mentally and emotionally, not just in schools, but outside of school, in terms of the student being able to function holistically. So we play a very critical role, and we have started this movement and we want to continue because the need is beyond what we can actually manage. So we have to engage in partnerships like this and understand that each of us have very, very important role to play. So those are my 2 cents for now, Sharika. I know my voice is a bit low and weak, but I hope that, persons are nonetheless, were nonetheless able to hear me share.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so much, Miss Barnes. And Mrs. Richards was saying in the chat that this is real talk, because sometimes as adults, we fail to realize that children are small human beings, and I think that sometimes sometimes we might just, how would I put it? We might not be paying keen attention to what is really affecting our children or students within the school. And the school is one of the best place for these things to be observed in, because majority of our children spend majority of their day in school. They'll leave home and they'll be at school by 7 or some 8, and pretty much they'll spend maybe about 8 hours or up to 6 hours in school. So they're spending a lot more time with the teachers. A couple of things that I would like to highlight about the partnerships that we can have with schools, Ms. Barnes. So we are having this initiative with the Poison Information Network and Mindfulness Jamaica. But for schools, we would like to partner with them in activities for their students, for their teachers, for the staff, and for the parents. And this is what we would like to offer to them, and would like them to contact us if they would like to get this partnership rolling. In terms of the students, we would like to be engaged in a lot more of the programs. We'd like to be invited to the schools to talk about the different poisonous agencies, to talk about the different substances that students abuse, and to talk about both the public health and the toxicological aspect, and most importantly, the mental wellness about it. In terms of the teachers, we'd like to engage them in how they can identify when students have been exposed to a particular substance. And one that I must bring and re-emphasize that we have discussed over the years in majority of our school discussion is lead poisoning. How can a teacher identify if any of their students have been exposed to lead over a particular period of time. We remember years ago that in the Friendship Primary School, that it was something that was happening with the students from a particular community. So those students, they were being classified as slow learners, their behaviors were different, and then after a while, they were having these seizures. Once we are seeing specific type of abnormal behaviors that are not supposed to be seen at a particular matriculation age for students within school, and we know that they live in a particular environment where they might be exposed to hazardous chemicals and substance, we'll ask the schools to reach out to us. Remember that you can contact CARPIN at the University of Technology Jamaica, and we can offer the support to you by coming into the schools to have talks with you and to share information with you, and also show you how you can access additional help. In regards to staff, we can provide training to your staff, especially those that handle chemicals, on how to safely handle the chemicals within a school institution, in terms of if these are properly labeled, how to understand the labeling, how to read them, how to take the necessary precautionary measures if applicable, and in case if there is a spill within the school environment, how it is that you would deal with hazardous chemical spill within your school environment. In terms of partnering with you through your parents, through your PTA body, you can invite us to give talks and presentation within your Parents Teachers Association, so that whenever there are problems within the homes, whenever there are problems within a particular community, they know exactly how to reach out to us for these assistance. Before we close off, I'd like to find out if there are any questions. Are there any questions in the chat, or are there any questions on the floor?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Richards. You can take the
Yes,
floor.
thank you. I am Casey Anita Richards from the Guidance Council for the Poorest Primary School. I'd just like to get some information on whom we should contact for the presentations. It's something that I would welcome for both our parents and staff. So I'd love the information to get you guys to come in.
All right. I'm going to put the information in the chat so that you can write it
All
from
right.
the chat. And also this presentation has been specifically recorded so that it can be shared within the schools. So the 50 schools that were contacted to participate, they will get a link to the recording of the presentation. And Ms. Barnes also put the contact information for Mindfulness Jamaica Initiative email in the chat, but I will put also for the Caribbean Poison Information Network and the number that you can contact us at.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And if there are any scenarios that you'd like to share with us that you think can be shared in regards to how you tackle these problems within your school, feel free to share them on this platform. I remember years ago, I've had a session with schools in Western Jamaica in regards to substance abuse, and it was quite alarming, the practices that are been happening in our schools. And we're thinking that, we need to focus a lot more on our children, on our adolescents, because they are going to be the future. And if we don't tackle the problems now, we are going to have problems for years to come. As Ms. Barnes would have said, that they're going to be our leaders, they're going to be our doctors, they're going to be our pharmacists, they're going to be teachers for some of our children or grandchildren. And so it is very important for us to be cognizant of all the different problems that they're going through. And we should try to have strong alliances and partnership intervention amongst the different institutions within Jamaica so that we can help our young people. Are there any additional questions from anyone on the floor?
No, not a question, but a statement. In the presentations, it would be good to also include the sweets and so on that are being sold now, with students consuming these sweets they keep coming in the media that they have substances which are not good for the children. Here at school, we do not sell sweets to students, but they buy it from vendors on the road or other places. So to make the parents aware so that they can help us, the school, to guide the children, and also in their buying, because sometimes they're not aware. I think since last year we've been seeing a lot of sweets and different type of food items coming in the media, and they're talking about the side effects from children consuming them. So I think that is something that is very important we need to look at. I don't know from the government's perspective what is being done, but for it to be so widespread, I keep getting in different groups, professional groups that I'm in, these food items which are not to be consumed, but they are being sold to the children who are unaware. So if that could be also included, please. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing that point. And I know exactly what it is you're talking about, these edibles that some of them have cannabis additives to them. And I think this is a partnership presentation that I could forge with the Consumers Affairs Commission, because we have had earlier discussions in regards to some of these items that are coming not through the mainstream part of Jamaica, but they are finding a way into the country, and they are leaking into the hands of children. So thank you for bringing that point, and I've noted it, and I think that is something that we could work on as a public education program within school. Thank you so much for that point. Any more last questions or points before I do the closing remarks? Let me see if there's anyone else. No, there are no more questions. And so I would just like to say thanks to everyone that has participated within our school interactive session this afternoon. We look forward to forging partnerships with the school through the Caribbean Poison Information Network and the Mindful Jamaica Initiative, along with other partners within Jamaica. Remember, if you need to reach out to us or contact us, you can contact the Caribbean Poison Information Network at CARPIN, that is CARPIN, at utech.edu.jm, or our toll-free line at 888-764-7667, or our straight line at 876-927-168029, extension 2300. And for the Mindfulness Jamaica Initiative, you can contact us at mindfulnessjamaica@gmail.com. Thank you. We look forward to having further partnership with you, and do have a pleasant afternoon. Thank you, and bye-bye.